Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am a usual host and presenter, Advocate Tudo Hoyane. Sources within the NPA indicate that there is now a lot of bad blood between Gininda on the one hand, Baloyi the prosecutor, and Kelly Kumalo. You'll recall that sometime last year, to the amazement of everybody, especially Baloyi, Gininda considered that Kelly Kumalo was the mastermind behind the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. In other words, Gininda told the court that, in fact, the killing of Senzo Meyiwa was a hit ordered by Kelly Kumalo, and that the 5 men that we see in the dock in the Pretoria High Court were her foot soldiers. Immediately after this disclosure, Gininda was visibly disturbed by this. Because remember, the narrative that Gininda is spinning in court excludes Kelly Kumalo completely. In the summary of facts, Kelly Kumalo, like all the other people in the Kumalo house, are referred to as victims. In fact, Kelly Kumalo is supposed to have had a cell phone robbed from her. That cell phone that was never found. Now, this U-turn, if we can call it a U-turn, by Gininda to now say Kelly Kumalo in fact was not a victim, negates all the evidence that she was robbed of a cell phone. Because if she ordered this hit and was the mastermind, like Gininda says, how could she have been in the same robbery, if we are to believe that story, right? How could she, in the same robbery, where she had been robbed of a cell phone, also be the mastermind of that robbery? So those are serious contradictions, and they completely rubbish the theory of 636. So when this came up in court, like I just indicated earlier, Baloyi was visibly disturbed by this. Because where does the prosecution go from here? All that it means is the prosecution has not been honest with the court. It presents one narrative that excludes Kelly Kumalo, or that portrays Kelly Kumalo as a victim, and even goes to the extent that a cell phone was robbed from her. But interestingly, the tracking of that cell phone shows that that cell phone never left the premises of the Kumalo house. Now, how is it possible that if these intruders had come into the house, killed Senzo Meyiwa and robbed her of the cell phone, and then ran in the direction of the park, how does the tracking of that cell phone remain in the house? That cell phone never left that house. So it could never have, been robbed. Because if that cell phone belonging to Kelly Kumalo had been robbed, then its tracking would show that it left the Kumalo house and was located somewhere. But you see, that story seems to have been made up because it does not, stand up. Or when you look at it, it has no credibility at all. So the bad blood that exists now between Baloyi, and reportedly there was a heated exchange between Baloyi and Gininda shortly after Gininda made the startling disclosures. Baloyi is visibly disturbed that How then does he go forward with this narrative which Gininda is just tearing apart? Now let us get back to Kelly Kumalo. Kelly Kumalo cannot be pleased by all this. And she is in fact very angry that Gininda rather, has fingered her as the mastermind. Because this comes, against all expectations. Remember, Baloyi and Gininda and Kelly Kumalo are supposed to be fighting out of one corner. Now here is Gininda literally throwing Baloyi, and more especially Kelly Kumalo, under the bus. Right? Now, that Pretoria High Court has got to deal with this issue. I don't think it's an issue that can just be dismissed or ignored. Because if the prosecution comes to court and fails to make such a crucial disclosure, how is it possible? Let us just put ourselves in the shoes of Baloyi. How can it be possible that Baloyi comes to court, prepares his witnesses, drafts a summary of substantial facts with a totally different narrative, in the sense that it excludes or has no mastermind? And along the way, one of his key witnesses, the man who calls himself the lead investigator. You see, Gininda is not just another witness in this trial. He's supposed to be the lead investigator. Now, the lead investigator, who was supposed to be in charge of the investigation, who was also supposed to be directing the course of the investigation, comes up at a later stage to say, in fact, one of those people who are claiming to be victims of that robbery was the mastermind. That is a mind-boggling disclosure. The mind-boggling disclosure. It turns the case upside down. It really shows that there is some foul play involved here. Why did Baloyi, for instance, and Gininda, not tell the court at the beginning of the trial, in their summary of facts, to be fair to the accused persons, to be fair to the defense counsels? Why did they not disclose that Kelly Kumalo is the mastermind? So that at that initial stage, the question would then have been, why is she not in that dock before the trial proceeds? Because even before the trial got underway, Gininda was already in possession of this information that Kelly Kumalo was a mastermind. This information did not come to the attention of Gininda sometime during the trial. Gininda and Baloyi knew from the onset that Kelly Kumalo was the mastermind, according to the way that Gininda has testified in court. But they do not disclose this to the court. This cannot by any means be said to be a fair trial. Because you see, in any trial, the prosecution and the defense has to play by the book. The prosecution is obliged to disclose all the information upon which it seeks to rely to get a conviction. This is to ensure that the defense can properly prepare themselves for the trial. Now, if some bits and pieces of information are withheld, This prejudices the defense case in a most serious manner. Because mid-trial, you cannot just be told if you are one of the accused sitting there, you are now told that in fact you had a mastermind, but that mastermind is walking the streets of South Africa as a free woman. When initially the case that was supposed to meet in court made no mention of a mastermind. So there's a lot of acrimony between Baloyi and Gininda over this. And Kelly Kumalo herself is on record as, saying a lot of things which would not be appropriate on a forum like the Daily Fix about Gininda. But the bottom line of it is Kelly has dared Gininda to arrest her. If you say I'm the mastermind Gininda, be a man and have the guts to arrest me. But Gininda has not taken up that challenge. Kelly Kumalo continues to be a free woman. This is what I wanted to bring you this morning. That the prosecution case has been destroyed by the prosecution itself and by nobody. And this is out of evidence coming out of that court. You see, this analysis is purely based on the evidence that we have, that has been laid in that court. Having said that, let me thank you for all the views I'm seeing. Let me thank you for all the subscriptions I'm seeing. And please have a nice day.